Hunting for that magical genie with piles of cash? Join Candace and her guests as they uncover financial secrets, have a laugh at past mistakes, and savor financial rebounds. Thank you for listening. Let's dive in and do something today that your future self will thank you for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Money Flow Genie podcast. I'm so excited to have Bernadeau Charles here today to share his experience, strength, and hope on financial freedom. Charles, I'm going to say welcome to you first before I give you a little tiny intro. I would love you to add any more to it after I do that. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Excellent.
Let's do it.
All right. I love your enthusiasm for this. This is great. Thank you so much for coming on. Since 2019, Bernardo has a 100-unit apartment complex that he is managing. He has an asset value of 9.3 million. And you've already done, in my understanding, that you already have done the full acquisition and business plan, executing 2 RV parks.
That's correct. Yeah, that is
And
correct.
then a 38-unit multifamily that you just recently acquired as well.
Yeah, I bought that one last year. Yeah,
Wow. And how's that going?
it's going good. Yeah, it's a lot of ups and downs, right? It's not as easy as the books and the gurus make it seem to be, right? So it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. I love being able to solve problems and issues with the property and be able to get from point A to point B and kind of see that trend go up. So definitely going in the right direction, right?
The multifamily space, I've learned, definitely will teach you patience.
Yes.
And it also, if you're like myself, a problem solver, like you just said, it is actually, it's exciting and challenging because I like solving problems. That's what I tend to do with my work. So outside of real estate. So this is it's a perfect venue to go into. Before we get too deep into your financial journey, one of the things that we like to open up on the podcast is a self-praise showcase. And that is because society teaches us not to brag. And there's a way of boasting and there's a way of bragging, but there's also a way of honoring the work that we've done. And we compare ourselves so much, particularly now because of social media, to each other instead of to ourselves. And so that's where I came up with a self-praise showcase so that you can share just whether it's a big thing or a small thing that you really are proud of yourself about. And take it away.
Yeah, so I guess for me for this year, software that I'll say. So I bought a 6 unit this year, and it was a project that if it came my way when I first started, it would have been like, man, this is a lot. It's not a regular unit. It was a triplex and a single family in one parcel, and then 2 single family homes on a different parcel. And so a lot of issues on how to acquire it and the different ways to approach it. But it came to me and it felt normal. Like, yeah, this is okay. I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna figure out a way to buy this and not have to worry about doing a weird loan or a balloon loan. And so I got the call from a broker. He said, "Hey, man, I sent you a deal." I'm like, "You sent me a deal? Like, how do you get my number? Like, how do you know who I am? Like, what is going on?" So he's like, "Yeah, I see that you're a buyer in this area. I see you're experienced. Take a look and let me know." I looked at it and it was a weird kind of a deal. Again, it was a weird shape of a deal. Everything was pretty much, a line here, a line there. It's a single family zone here, but it's multifamily there. So all the bits I spoke to, they're like, yeah, we can't, this is, I can't fund this. It's not it's not one parcel. It's wonky, right? But I saw it was in a good area and the rents are way under market value. So I'm like, you know what? I have to solve this issue. And I just kind of went through it and I didn't have any phases. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna call this person. I have all my connections. So I built all my contacts over the years to where it would seem very seamless and easy, right? But it wasn't because I built that muscle over time to where solving problems every day. Anything that I see, it comes up. All right, boom, I'm gonna call this person, I'm gonna call that person, and then I got through it very quickly and got the deal done, right? So now people are like, how'd you buy this deal? And funny enough, I met someone who saw the same deal and they couldn't buy it because it was just can't fund this on a regular bank loan. But
Right.
self-praise is the fact that I do the work beforehand because I know I'm going to get to a point where I can use all the previous experiences, all the ups and downs from year one to year now that I can just go and breeze through something that seems like it's easy, but it's not, right?
So my takeaway from that is you just dove in and just stepped into first of all, stepped into your fear and worked through and just became very methodical in the process. And just not saying no until you know that, okay, this is an exact no. And so it sounds like this deal is really working out for you.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. It's in a great area. Again, I dove in before I even knew if I could even get the right lender to want to fund this, right? It's an older property, but in a great area. And I just dove in and I solved the issues as they came, knowing that I've seen things that are similar in the past. I've gone through this year over year, and I know I'll be able to get to the end, right? And so it felt like now I was pretty much breezing through the process, even though I'm an investor. I solve issues, right? But I didn't realize
Right.
that, oh yeah, now it's like it's normal. Get a call, hey, this is not working out. Okay, problem. Let me get my network going. Let me figure out a way, a solution, and get it done. So
Right. Now, did you happen to get a local bank to help you with the funding for that, or did you have to end up getting a private investor to do private lending?
yeah, so I actually went through one of my friends who's a broker, and so he has a long list of connections, banks. So I went through two DSCR loans to get this property, right? So, but at the same time, I did two different loans to be able to get a fixed debt, low interest for 30 years. I thought about going the commercial route, but then it would be, higher interest, a 7 year or some term, a balloon. So it's less stress doing the fixed route. So I went that route instead.
So that's like a loan. So you have like a mortgage and then you have a construction loan on top of it that you take the draws off of to fix it up. Is that what you're saying that you purchased it with?
So it was already fixed up in a sense that it was already filled. It didn't really need any work up front. It was
Nice.
just so that the current landlord just chose not to raise rent as much. And so I came at a point to where rents were, I think, 1,200, and they
Mhm.
were currently being at 7, 8, right? And so I knew that I could easily over time raise the rents, and then as far as repairs, do them over time because it was all filled with long-term
Mhm.
leases already.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's so great. How long did it take you to do that problem solving to get it under contract? Did you have it under contract and then problem solve? Like, help our listeners if they come across something like this, that they have like an idea of how to approach it.
Yeah, so I like diving in. So I just dove in, got in a contract, and as I went, as the issues came up, I solved them, right? So I didn't think about what could come up, or I literally, I think the next day I called the broker back and said, "Yep, here's the offer, let's go," right? And so as things came up, I navigated those issues as they came up.
Nice. Nice. I have a mentor that says often we can do analysis paralysis often, particularly in the real estate world. And every now and then, if there's someone that starts when we do like one of the group coaching calls, there'll be somebody that comes on and they're creating solutions to what if scenarios and spending so much time on that. And I love how you got it under contract. And obviously, through having it under contract, you're doing your due diligence to see what am I getting this under contract prior to that. But at the same time, you're looking at the solution to an existing problem, not more that could be happening in the future. I mean, we can't prepare for the future in every way. We can be prepared and planned and have a business plan. But I like your approach of let's just dive in and see what we can do to fix this.
Yeah, and I wasn't always this way. I mean, I know. So when I first started, I had the same fears where I would numbers for a long time and would not take the action because of fear. And I
Mhm.
went to a meetup once, and I saw someone talk about how they did it. I'm like, man, this is not as hard as I'm making it out to be in my head, right? And so I think somebody else does the exact thing that I'm trying to do, and having that support system, it allowed me to feel more comfortable over time. To just, I'm just going to dive in, and whatever issue that arises, I know I'm going to have somebody in my network to guide me through this process, right?
Yes, because without having it's teamwork, and we can have different businesses that are solo businesses, but you still need to have associates and colleagues to bounce things off of with more experience. The more we hang out with people that are a little one step ahead of us, then it's inspiring, and you can't help naturally to just want to move forward and grow. So tell me how you got into, well, first of all, let's just touch back into, tell me a little bit about your financial journey. Like, when did you start thinking about what you're passionate about, what you really want to move forward with your life in the financial journey? And do you think about it in a way of financial freedom or continuing on to have a life that you are making money with and just enjoying life? Like, what is your approach on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm from the island. I'm from Haiti, so I was taught very early on to just go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and so I committed. I dove deep into that, right? So I'm a person that likes to just take action. I did all that, went to college, got my degree, and so my path was that it was going to be go to school, get my degree, get a good job, and stable, right? And so I accomplished that. And after college, when I got to my first job, I realized, man, this is really not what I thought this was gonna be like. So I worked for about a year, and then I got me a brand new car, got a sports car. I'm like, you know what, I made it. This is it. Like I deserve this car.
Right.
Um, and then about a year later, the best thing happened to me is that I got into a car crash, and the car was total. And so that was the first event in my life that really just made me stop to think about how am I approaching life and money and freedom, right? And so I remember I had this idea of investing in real estate in college, but I never really took any action with the thought. I just pretty much let it sit in my head over time. And so after the accident, I just dove into a different way, a different approach. So books, podcasts, meetups, conferences, I just kept going. And so this YouTube hole of information, essentially. I started a meetup in my market in 2017, and that pretty much got big. It grew. I met people through there. And so that was my first experience and connection to investors in real estate and how to do things, burr, flips, buy and hold. And so my thought was, how can I still accomplish and get the car that I would like to get, but not struggle and really just barely making rent, paying the car note, struggling. Although I look the part on the outside, but really I'm struggling to be able to achieve and get what I would like to have and desire to have, right? And I realized there's a different way to approach this. And so for me, it was real estate. I love numbers. I love people. I love solving issues. And so I just dove into that and found my lane and took action, right? So about a year and a half or so after the accident, I got my first property. And I realized, man, this very small cash flow that I'm making, I'm not working. So if I can do more of this and place my income, I can have my time back to really be able to live and have time with my daughter, my wife, my family, and not be in the office from 8 to 6 o'clock every day. So it was that initial experience that really drew me into real estate and investing and financial freedom, essentially.
Oh, I love that. Now, are you still working your W-2 job or have you been able to replace your income through the real estate world?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So initially, that was my thought process, right? It's like, I want to be able to invest in real estate, buy properties, buy rentals, leave my job as possible and do that full time. But I realized, you know what? It's a different job that I'm replacing it with, essentially, right? Because even if you get into business, you still are working and putting in your time into something else, right? It's a trade-off, essentially.
Yes.
So I took a hybrid approach to where I'm like, you know what? The thing that's important to me is that I'm at home, my wife and my daughter. So I a job that's remote, fully at home. I can see my kid, I can see my daughter, I can still build my business, and I can leverage my active income into my passive income, right? Because either way, flipping, if you're wholesaling, it's a job,
Yes.
and that money, goes into buying rentals. So flipping, wholesaling, a W-2, but the most important thing is your time. Like, where are you, and how's your space? Then I can be home. I can see her in the morning. We eat together, have breakfast. I can work. I can go to her gymnastics or swim, but I'm not in the office the whole day. I don't see her until I get home. To me, that
Yeah.
was the most important thing is be able to see my wife, see my daughter on a regular basis, right? And so work is work. If it's flipping, wholesaling a W-2, but as long as you're leveraging your active income to your passive income, that's the whole goal, right? And so I'm doing that over
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I just love the fact that you are able to see And I'm sad that you got in the car accident, and that I'm glad that that opened your eyes. It tends to be those types of things that really just like hit home and say, wait, what am I doing? I got to slow down. I really feel like it's, angels coming in when, even you hear people on different podcasts and things and books share about their experiences where they're not. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming because you didn't mention any like serious injuries from that car crash, that it was just the material car that got destroyed. I love the fact that you are looking at this journey. You love what you're doing. You're seeing the benefits of choosing, for instance, real estate as your focus. At the same time, understanding that it is a job. That's one of the things when I started this podcast. I came into the multifamily world believing what I was being told by the larger gurus and mentors. Now, I've had my own business for 32 years. I was not planning on giving that up. I thought this would be a nice transition to go from my business and then just roll into real estate because I knew it would be another business just because I've been in business for a long time. And I have watched people join these groups and quit their W. And I cringe because I don't feel like people are honestly telling each other, hey, this was really tough. I shouldn't have done this. They're just posting the number of doors that they have acquired, which you and I both know just because you have a number of doors doesn't mean there's a paycheck coming into your mailbox. Doesn't mean there's a paycheck coming to your investor's mailbox. It depends on the property management. So many things involved. So with all of that being said, I love the fact that you are okay. The importance is not so much how fat my wallet is and how many items I can get. It's what can I do to have this and be with my family at the same time. That's not an easy decision to make and or have the awareness of it. So I want to honor you in this like showcase moment that I'm seeing within you. Not many people see that. They think that I'll get this and then statement, then I will do that. That's so incredible. I think this is so valuable for our listeners to hear that this is, how you're approaching financial freedom. Just great, man. So
Yeah.
great.
And I realized because the goal in the beginning was, yeah, I'm gonna do all these things, get all these multi-family buildings and rentals, and I still want to do that. I'm still gonna do that. And then after I retrieve all that, then I'll have the time. Now, I'm like, well, would I really have the time? I'm gonna be more busy. I'm gonna be buying more deals and doing more and more. So if I'm able to enjoy the time that I have now and be able to still build, but scale back and do a gradual pace that's consistent, but still be able to see my daughter and be active now while she's younger, and not just build all this work fully into my business and then lose on her time. Now it just didn't make any sense. And so I realized that I can have both and just do things where it's balanced, right? And so it's more of a time freedom because the whole goal is time. It's all about getting your time back. So if you have it
Mhm.
now, why wait and until you achieve this number that's not even a real number times, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've actually had clients that I've watched just work and work and work, and even when they come to their vacation homes, they're still working on their decks, sitting and
Yeah.
looking at the water, but they're still working. And then telling me, oh, I'm going to be retiring and, next year, next year. So next year comes. And it was a big eye opener for this one particular client. I was very fond of him, and he worked and worked and worked, and he retired. And he moved to his vacation home, and I would see him. And then I got a call. 6 months later, he passed away,
Wow.
died of a heart attack. And I thought, wow, he had been working so hard. I saw how hard he worked. He had everything that most people would want, but now he's not here to enjoy what he has. And was there enjoyment in that? I don't know. Obviously, he was passionate about his work, but I'm so, wow. It's just so beautiful to think about that you're able to see this so early in life. How old is your daughter?
Three.
Oh my gosh, so she's definitely at that impressionable stage, and
Yeah.
every moving thing, piece of lint, what it is just fascinating. And you
Yeah.
can see the awe and wonder of discovery, and the learning to say no.
Right. Yeah. And I still struggle because at times, I'm always working as well, so I'm very passionate. So at times, I want to go and check the email and respond to this broker, right? But then I'm like, you know what? I can go play with my daughter now and do this
Mhm.
later at night or something, right? Because time is the only thing that don't get back, and it's now. So it's just
Yes.
precious.
And financial freedom, when throughout every single podcast where I've interviewed people, and including myself, financial freedom is really if you look at the equation, it's all about achieving time freedom. It's not about how big is my wallet. Yes, all of those things will create opportunities and maybe more adventures and experiences. But the biggest thing is trying to find that time freedom to be able to do what you want. One of the other things that I've discovered too in talking with people that have achieved their financial freedom is those that have really good structure and know who they are, a good sense of self and what they want to do. And usually it's, a volunteering or helping others or creating some kind of foundation or just spending time with family. Nothing wrong with just like having financial freedom just to be in your small network, because we can make a difference in one person's life that will have a ripple effect. So you don't have to do this grand thing when you are seeking financial freedom. But if you don't have that structure and you don't have that focus, people get depressed. And then what good is it? Then it's a struggle. So that's fabulous. So tell me a little bit more about your journey in the world of multifamily. How are you seeing that? Or is your real estate world evolving? And how did you choose multifamily?
Yeah. So I began in the single family space, buying single family homes, duplexes, drives, and quads as long-term buy and holds. And so I still do that to this day. And I just added the multifamily as another branch of what I do. So back in 21, I did my first deal as an LP of two RV parks, but I knew the operator, so I was able to be active as well and help and learn the business.
Mhm.
And so, I'm buying at least one or two a year just to be able to get more under my belt, 5-year holds minimum times. So it was a way to kind of scale and add more experience, more net worth to my business, to myself, knowing that the ultimate goal is to be able to take that active vacation income, buy more rentals, right? Because to be honest with you, I get paid more from my little duplex every month than a 40 unit. It sounds cool. Yes, I own a 40 unit. I own this. And I own a very small sliver of a pie, right? And I'm doing the work. I'm underwriting deals. I talk to people. I have a team around me. But really, looking at freedom with time and money, I get paid more from my rentals than I do from my apartments. And that's okay because it's a different play. It's a different strategy. It's more of a long-term approach with it. Yeah, it's a way to be diverse in what I do. I really enjoy it because of the team aspect. I think because I love people, so I just enjoy the team aspect of, hey, I have a deal, I'll underwrite it. Okay, raising capital, asset management, let's get on the meeting. So it's that the team aspect of it is what I like. But really, I get more money from my quads and my duplexes every month.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Sorry, I know it's not the thing to
It's
say.
so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. It is so true. The reason that I say that, I really want to thank you for saying that, because I've been mentioning that, and I hate to see people spend so much money. Not that you do need the education, and if you do jump into the multifamily space, whether you pay somebody, just get with a serious operator, someone that's been doing this. Do get into some kind of coaching mentorship program for sure. But there's I don't have you met, there's a woman named Mandy McAllister. She is very frank about what it's like. She was able to quit her W-2 job. She was a single mom. And I've interviewed her on the podcast. And one of the things that she talks about is that unless you own the actual building itself, when, as you say, with multifamily, it's a team sport. Unless we get to a certain level in financial freedom that it does become, you can own a 38 unit by yourself, but you have to have that experience in order to just be even, and liquidity to be even considered to purchase that. And one of the things that's just been so amazing is watching the cash flow comes in from rentals that are small. And so everyone wants to jump to the bigger, but actually starting small gives you the experience to jump into the bigger, which is it's a whole different ball game. It really is. It is about a team sport. I will definitely say that. And wow. So I appreciate you really sharing and being candid about that.
Yeah, and you can do both. I don't know. I mean, personally, if you can buy rentals and still invest in syndications, either active or passive, I think doing both, if you enjoy being, in the weeds and doing that kind of stuff, it's not a bad approach as well.
Right.
It's a whole different strategy in what you want to do. But to your point, syndications and multifamily, you need a lot of deals. You need to be experienced. You need time. You need to be able to really understand the business to really get to a point where make money on those deals over time. But
Right.
it's not an easy, you buy one deal and you're free. No, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of years and time and experience and patience and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. One of the things I was thinking, did you notice any thought patterns as you've been moving forward and changing the ways that you are approaching your financial freedom? Are there like thought patterns that you've noticed that have maybe limited you and that you've overcome? Do you have anything like that?
So I know in the beginning I was a bit fearful or, felt like I wasn't able to play in the syndication space of the bigger deals because, again, I come from nothing, so everything I've done is pretty much self-taught. And
Mhm.
I think it was a belief that I didn't belong or I wasn't experienced enough to do bigger deals. But once I realized my value and what I could bring to the table and what I could do to help advance different deals, then I began to get over that because I know if you can master your skill set in the business of syndication, because there's a lot of moving pieces, there's a lot that it goes on. So if you can come with your value to the table and show that and showcase that, then you're able to, really play and talk to the big dogs and get things done, right? And so after I overcame that fear of not being enough to form and be in those meetings and in those spaces, right? But I'm the one that is more like, yeah, no, I do belong here, and I have something to bring to the table for these different deals, right?
Are you investing locally with these multifamilies? Whereabouts are you located? I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah, so I'm in Florida. I do invest out of state. I invest in Texas, South Carolina, and Georgia. So I am buying out of state, but I am in Florida. Yeah.
And were any of your properties, and we've had some serious storms come through, and there was that one that came through all the way up from Florida and then went all the way up through the Carolinas and the southeast there. Were any of your properties affected by that? And if so, how did you cope?
Yeah, I had a small leak on one of my rentals, but it wasn't a big issue. I got it fixed pretty quickly, but nothing major to my units. I had friends who were more in the Sarasota area, Tampa area that really got wiped out, like completely, like flooded everything, right? I got lucky there. I didn't have anything major happen to my units. Yeah.
And when you're looking for your properties, do you take the weather in the area overall in consideration before you start really choosing your market?
It's a good question. I normally don't. I know I like to be by the water. I do avoid being on the coast of any
Mhm.
cities, but as far as the weather patterns, I don't because you really can't plan everything. I mean, the one that came and went through Tallahassee, that never
Mhm.
happens. I mean, that hasn't happened in I don't know how many.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so who would have thought of all places? And I invest there a lot, but I do stay away from coast. I like to be more central located, where I invest.
Nice, nice. Now, has I guess your daughter, because she's 3, she doesn't quite understand so much. Do you think you will be bringing her and teaching her aspects of this business, or are you just going to buy her some real estate to create her own financial future as she's gets older?
So I struggle a lot with that question because naturally I want to be able to, yeah, teach her everything and bring her on and say, hey, look at this. Here's another way to do X, Y, and Z. But I don't want to push her away from the business by doing that as well, because
Yeah.
I know parents that say, hey, you got to read this book, you got to learn about Burr and multifamily. They're like, I don't want to do all this stuff, right? I just want to go and be a kid or be a lawyer or be a doctor. So I want to do it to where I can, over time, slowly pull her into it, but not forcefully to where she resists what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm gonna do that yet. I'm trying to do it to where it's more of a, fun and, if she shows interest, pull her in over time, but not in a, hey, you must read Rich Dad Poor Dad. You have to buy rentals. Like, no, it's okay if you want to just go to school and be a regular, just get a job. It's okay too, right? This is my path, and
Yeah.
I want to show you a way, a better way. I'm not gonna force you to be able to, do this because I know kids. If you force them, they're gonna push away. Like, no, Dad, I don't want
Oh,
to.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's so great. You could, when she gets older, you can play Monopoly with her, and you could put your own little names of the buildings that you
Yeah.
participated in or owned on the little tiny apartment buildings.
That's awesome. That's a good idea. I might do that. I like that idea.
Yeah, and that way you could personalize it. She could really understand, what you do. And how about your wife? Tell me about your wife. Does she enjoy real estate, or she just like supports you on the sidelines? Like, how is she a part of this? Because she's a big part of your life.
Yeah, she's a big supporter of it. I know. So like when I first started, I know the first property I bought. I remember I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, babe, I think this is gonna be a good one. I did the numbers. She wasn't there. She was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So she didn't even see the property, but she believed in me so much that she said, yep, pull the
Oh,
trigger. And so I think her belief in me and it's not really her thing per se as far as the details and numbers. She
hmm
trusts that, hey, if I say it's a good deal, I've looked at it, hey,
hmm
let's go, right? And so having
hmm
that support system is really big for me, and it's really been a big help over time.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So she doesn't, she's not really interested in the real estate. She just supports you in what you want to, what you're wanting to do.
Exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
and I think it's a beautiful thing because I know folks who have it to where it's really hard to get their spouse on board. So I've been lucky there to where she's a big supporter of that.
And what do you do as your W-2 job?
Yeah, so I'm a project manager currently at a firm. So I manage about 10 people and some funds. And so it's very, very low stress work. And
hmm
so I pretty much kind of just guide them and help them their work every day if they need it. But yeah,
And that right there within project management, talk about, so if someone's trying to, any of our listeners are thinking about like, what do I have? And you had just spoken about, find what your strength is and how can you bring that to the team. Project management is phenomenal because particularly in the multifamily space, it's a team sport. Even in just having rentals, you have to manage your property managers. You have to be able to manage people because you have tenants. There's all sorts. I mean, there's so many nooks and crannies and where that particular skill that you do for your W-2 comes into play into your real estate world. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, well, what do I have to offer? And that's the first place that you can look at. Even a mom, if you don't work and you're just a mom, my goodness, think about all the things that you have to put together and keep going and problem solve.
right. That's a
Often,
lot.
often. That's an asset right there. That's an asset right there. Oh, wow, that's so cool. I totally love that. Now, you talked about going to your local real estate groups. How did you, when you walked in there, did you just like introduce yourself? How did you just start talking to people or just listening for a while and then going back and forth and just having your face being seen kind of, it's intimidating going into a place like that where you hear people talking about some big numbers that just have zeros behind them. But in the beginning, they are very intimidating.
Yeah, so I had the right idea of posting on Bigger Pockets. Hey, is there anyone in the area that would like to meet for coffee and talk real estate? Thinking I might not get anyone to respond. Maybe it might be two people. I was wrong because I got a lot of different was saying, oh yeah, like when is it? Like, yeah, of course, I'm down. I'll show up one day. I'm just like, oh, I gotta find a place for this. Like, what's going on? So did this meetup out of the blue, and let me tell you, people showed up, and I did not know anything about real estate. I didn't know about Burr, I didn't know about flips, so I didn't know anything at all. So, mind you, I'm hosting a meetup. People are coming that are experienced than me, and they're talking all these numbers, and I'm just taking notes under the table, like, oh yeah, let me write this down. Burr, syndication, LP, GP. So I'm just taking notes, and I have no clue what's going on. And so over time, because I created this environment that was very casual, very laid back, no pitching, no money. It was just like let's just grab coffee at a restaurant and just talk. People loved that, and so it kept going and it grew, and that's how I built my connection to agents, to brokers, to all kinds of people in the business to be able to learn how to do this properly, right? And so I think I was just naive because I didn't know anything, and so I was just being like bright-eyed, "Hey guys, welcome. What's your name? What do you do?" Right? And so it just grew, and that's how I learned the business. It was scary, but I just again I like to dive in. I dive in, and then if it fails, I learned something from it.
Right.
And it's been going on for 7+ years now, and so we meet every month, and it's grown like crazy. And I'm doing more and more different meetings now. I'm doing like a multi-family one. That's a separate one now, and so it's just it's all about people, right? So if you can help
Right.
people, people are going to help you.
And so are these in person or are they virtual meetings?
They're in person.
They're in person. I'll tell you one of the things that for myself, because I live out in an area it's 2 hours from Boston. And there's no, I went to, when they're saying, oh, just go to your local RIA meetup.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours to find one,
Wow.
just to get to it. And then, Zoom, not that COVID was a wonderful experience, but what it did do, and I think probably for a lot of people like myself in remote areas that we totally love where we are, it opened up the world to be able to connect with people like yourself and to do the exact same thing in creating a world and a life in which we strive. Um, Oh, that's so great. I love that. And naive. Yeah. Just
Very naive. Yeah.
look
Very,
at what
very,
came from it.
yeah.
Wow. If you had not stepped into that and just done it, how do you think your real estate world what would the progression, how do you think that would have looked like?
It would have been it would have been so hard. It would have been very slow and hard and difficult because I feel like it's really about people. It's a people's business, right? And so doing it at home and by yourself on your laptop is not going to work. Like you have to go out there and meet people. And so that support system has really helped me, has helped other people. And so I don't think I would have been able to get here today if I didn't
Mhm.
have this group of guys and gals in my network. And
Yeah.
and and truthfully, I'm in Orlando. It's a big market, so I was surprised that it didn't already exist. So yeah, it's definitely it's been very important and helpful in my journey to have people that are in the same space, same mindset, same problems, same struggles, and that we just help each other, right? At no cost. At no cost.
Yeah. I have to say, this is one of those most beautiful areas, particularly in multifamily. Well, real estate in general, I find it is like there is a good portion of people that it's like a family. Yes, there are people that are competitive, and those tend to kind of fall off to the wayside. And then there are others that if you're really in this, you love watching people get passionate about something that you're really into and that you know. And I don't know, maybe I surround myself with people that love to teach. And the same, that's where this podcast came about for me is like, hey, there seems to be this little piece that's missing where people aren't talking about the very topics that we are talking about right now. Where they're looking at the big, pretty picture that's been painted in social media, but you don't see anyone posting going, oh my gosh, we didn't make our quarter investment mark. And we're not going to be able to do distributions, and see the look on their face when they're like, what do we say to our investors, for the first time, if something like that's not happening? How are they feeling when they're doing something like that? One thing that I want to emphasize, and I have heard you talk about it and mention it, it's a long-term business plan. It's not a get rich overnight. And thank you for mentioning the concept of the work involved that you'd be replacing when you were talking about, I could do wholesaling, I could do flips and fix. That is something that it is a full-time job. And can you do 2 full-time jobs at the same time? Yeah, but you don't really have much of a life.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because it's all about the life that you want. And I
Mhm.
realized I wanted to be able to have a life where I have time back, right? I'm not working and hustling for however many years. It's all work. It's
Mhm.
more so how do you want to work and spend your time?
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any books that you would like to recommend that in your education process that you that helped you a lot?
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna say the one that's very cliche, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of them. The
Mm,
other one is The Rich Man in Babylon. It's a phenomenal book that I've read. It's a very small book, but it really just taught me about finance and really had to take a step back and look at what being rich really means.
yes.
And sometimes it's right here, it's where you are. It's where you are right now, right? And I would say those two books are really good, been very helpful in my journey. Yeah.
Oh, I love your perspective on life. That's just beautiful. I think this is like, I just want to, we've been talking for a little while, so we're running out of time. I think this is such a beautiful way to end this podcast, but not without you sharing how our listeners can get in touch with you. And anything else that you would like to add as parting notes to the gang.
Yeah, no, so I'm on Instagram a lot. So if you want to get with me there, it's Bernardo_buys_rentals. So send me a DM there if you're in the Orlando area. I host several meetups every month. So let's connect there. As far as parting words, I would just say that take your time. It's not a rush. There's no looking for being the fastest or the biggest, right? Take your time to get to where you are going because if you take your time, you'll get there and get there correctly, right?
Mhm.
And oftentimes you already have what you need already in you to succeed. And so just take your time and solve today's problems because tomorrow there's new things to solve, right? So just go day by day and you'll get there.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Bernardo. This has just been really a wonderful, enriching, and insightful. The part that you have really hit on a lot of what I've been trying to emphasize that one, you don't have to have money to build it. You don't have to come from money to build it. You've touched on the aspect of just like we really have a lot of what we need right now. And that in itself is what is the freedom and connecting with the time and just being present. That's what life is about, is just being present. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable with us and sharing. That's just incredible. And with this, I would love, it's just so great. I'm just so happy to have had you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we've run out of time, but I'd love to have you on in the future to see, more progress and what things you've had. That would be fabulous. And I just want to say to our listeners, thanks for listening. And I also want to remind you that you are your genie in the bottle. So do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I appreciate everyone listening. And thanks again, Bernardo.
Thank you.
The info in this podcast is straight from our personal experiences. You alone possess the power to manifest your desires. You are the genie in the bottle, awaiting your command. So ask smart questions. We're not licensed financial pros, so be sure to consult with a licensed professional, attorney, or tax consultant.